Hey, this is Quinn, and I'm going to talk a little bit about finding notes on the guitar. Specifically, how we can work towards memorizing all the notes on the guitar and kind of knowing where we're at all times, and what notes we're actually holding under our fingers when we're doing all these goofy chords. First thing we want to do is we want to get something to kind of check ourselves against. So we need some type of fretboard chart to double check ourselves. I'm a really big fan of this book right here. It's just Hal Leonard's Music Theory for the Guitar. It's by Tom Kolb. And what's great about it is just right at the very beginning of the book you have a great fretboard diagram that just shows you where all the notes are at the different frets on the guitar. And that's for all the strings, and it goes up to about the 15th fret. And you can use something like this, either from a book or from a free source online, to kind of check yourself. And for some of these exercises I'm going to show you. So, those exercises. First thing we can do is just try to memorize all the notes on a single string. So in order to do this, you really have to know your music alphabet front and back. So if we start on E right here, you want to know that up next is F. After that it's F sharp or G flat. I'm just going to call all these notes by their sharp names instead of their flats, just because I think we run into sharps a bit more on the guitar than we do flats for most people. At the third fret, we're playing the note G. The fourth fret, we're playing G sharp. Fifth fret is A. Fifth fret's A sharp. Seventh fret's B. Eighth fret's C. Ninth fret C sharp. 10th fret's D. 11th fret is D sharp, and then all the way up to 12th fret's our octave at E. So what you can do is you can make an exercise out of that. Just count all the way up, all the way back down each of the strings, and just start from E, then go to A, and just try to memorize that, and try to really look closely at where each of these notes are, and just count it out to yourself, and get used to seeing that whole scale, that whole chromatic scale, front and back. You can even practice this by yourself, just reciting it to yourself over and over again. So if I were, just waiting around somewhere, like in a dentist office, I could just think to myself, A sharp, B, C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, and then back to A. And that's my whole music alphabet. And if I could just think of that front and backwards, I should be able to find my place on any string just by counting my way up. Now, eventually we want to have each fret memorized as the specific note that we're playing when we get to it. Like for instance, if I'm right here on the A string, I want to know very quickly that that's F. Or I want to know that this is G, or that this is F again, that's C, that's A sharp. So another way we can do this is we can pick a random note from the music alphabet, and we can try to find it on each string. So let's take the note A, for instance. So I'll try to find the note A on the low E string. It's right here at the 5th fret. If I want to find it again on the A string, I can just play it open, or I can come up and get it at the 12th fret. If I want to get it on the D string, I can get it right here at the 7th fret. If I want to play it on the G string, I can get it at the 2nd fret right here. If I want to get it on the B string, it's up here at the 10th fret. And if I want to get it on the high E string, it's at the 5th fret again. So you want to try to get through that as quickly as you can, just to kind of test how well you have these memorized. So you want to eventually get to the point where you're like, and just be able to get to each one really quickly. Here's a few cheats for that are really interesting. Something that really helps is if you know your octave shapes really well. So if you know that this is A right here, I just have to go up to right here, and that's my octave. And that's the same for all of your notes on starting on the E string and the A string. It's not necessarily the same for the D and G strings, because you have that tuning between the G and B strings that has to change the shape a little bit. But you just have to memorize it as this instead of this, because that's just going to get you that sound, which is not an octave. That's an octave. But on these strings, this shape is your octave. So for A, for instance, 5th fret on the E string right here, that's our A. We can also jump up to the 7th fret on the D string and get A. So our octave shape is wherever we start from, if we move over 2 strings and then go up 2 frets that way, that's our octave. So I can very quickly find out where all my A notes are in relation to some of the notes on the low E string. So I know that's A. I can find A really quickly if I do that. I can do the same thing for C. If I know this is C, I can jump up right here and find C really quickly. If I want to find F sharp really quickly, I can do that. You can do the same thing on the A string. If I know this is D right here, I can jump up really quickly and get D right here as well. And then you can try practicing double octaves as well. That'll show you your octaves in 2 different octaves, obviously. So I can get A right here, A right here, and A right here. And as long as you can see that shape, and you realize you can just move it around to a different spot, you should be good, and you should be able to figure out where you can find some of your notes really quickly. Here's another cheat. Whenever you have an open string like that, you can find the octave up at the 7th fret of the next string. So that's my open E. 7th fret of the next string will also be your octave. That changes a little bit when you're going between your G and your B strings again because of the tuning, because these are only a major third apart. So your octave will actually be up on your 8th fret between these two. So that'll be a G, and that'll be a G right there. And we can do the same thing on this string right here. That's our open B, and that's our octave of B right there. So that's something I'll sometimes use to get around quickly. Another thing we can do is we can think of our notes in terms of intervals, and we can practice this a few different ways. What I mean by this is we want to be aware of what the note is a certain interval above another note. So that's kind of a weird definition of it, but what I mean is, say we take the open E note right here. You also want to be thinking intervallically what all the notes above this are. So if I'm at an open E right here, what note is a major second above this? And it's good to be able to do it on the guitar like that. I mean, no, that's an F sharp, but it's also good to be able to do this conceptually in your head. So try to think to yourself, and you can even count it out using the major scale, or not the major scale, sorry, the chromatic scale. If you're at E, if you go up 2 frets, what's right here? And if you can do that without the guitar, even in your hands, you can just do it all in your head. It'll make you so much better. So you can do that for all of your intervals. Think of it for like major seconds, tritones, major sevenths, minor sevenths, minor sixths, major sixths. Try to think of it for everything you can. And just an example, I could say, what's a perfect fifth above the note E? And I know right off the top of my head that's a B note. If I want to think of what's a tritone, I know that's an A flat. That's an A sharp or a B flat. If I have the note A and I want to think of what's a major third above it, I know it's a C sharp. If I have the note D flat and I want to know what's a major third above that, I know that's the note F. So conceptually, can you think of it in your head what interval is above the note you're currently on? Because that also helps you out a lot when you're trying to think of chords and analyze how they're constructed. If you know your interval shapes very well, say I take a chord that's like, I don't know, what have I been playing lately? Say something like this. That's a C minor 11 chord, and I can figure that out really quickly by knowing, this is a C right here, this is a B flat, this is an E flat, and this is an F right here. And I know that by knowing, okay, there's a minor seventh. I know a minor seventh of C is note B flat. I know this is my minor third up an octave. I could also play it right here. So I know that's E flat, and I know this is my fourth right here, and that's the note F. So that would basically be C minor 11, or this, you could also call this your 11th, so that would make a little bit more sense. So those are a couple ways you can think of it. It really helps out when you start getting into more complex chords, because you can think of not just what the intervals are, but what the actual notes are. So that's another thing that helps out a lot. Just really try to take every chord shape you know, try to analyze what notes are in each of these. So if I'm playing something that's kind of weird sounding like this, it's got this, you know, it's not really strongly major or minor, I can look at what my bottom note is. See, that's G, that's A, that's D, and that's F sharp. And I can come up with a name for that, and I could call that a G major 9 if I wanted to, or I could call it a D with a G in the bass. So leave any comments if you have any questions about that, or if there's anything else I can clarify when it comes to memorizing notes. I hope you all have some time to practice it, and definitely work on it if you can, because it is it can be kind of frustrating when you play with other musicians that, you know, don't know their note names, and you're trying to explain what chord you're playing, and they just have, you know, no concept of what you're doing. It's really useful in a practical setting. So thanks for watching, and hope you like and subscribe.